Hello everyone, and welcome to the course installation and setup lecture. In this lecture, we're going to do three main things. The first one is to show you how to download and install Anaconda. The second one is how to create a virtual environment using an environment file that we give you. And the third one is opening up the Jupyter Notebook system. As a quick note, if you're an advanced user and you're already familiar with some other development environment or IDE, please feel free to use it. There's no restriction on what IDEs you need to use. All the Python code that we show in this course will work on any IDE that can run regular Python. We do, however, recommend using our suggested environment, including the Jupyter Notebook, and tools to avoid issues along the way, as well as being able to directly interact with the code. Jupyter Notebook is a great system, and if you haven't tried it out first, I would encourage you to try it, but again, please feel free to use any development environment you prefer. Also keep in mind this lecture has resource links. Make sure to download the .yml file before starting this lecture. Okay, we're going to start off by showing you how to download and install Anaconda. Anaconda is a distribution of Python that includes a bunch of scientific libraries that is really useful, especially for natural language processing. Go ahead and either Google search Anaconda download or go to the link here. I'm going to head over to my browser and go to that link now. Okay, here I am at anaconda.com/download. Keep in mind, this website does change its appearance from time to time, so if it looks slightly different for you, don't worry, that's totally okay. Somewhere along this page, you should see three download options, one for Windows, one for Mac OS, and one for Linux. So right now I'm filming this on a Windows computer, so you simply click on your operating system, you'll scroll down, and it should give you two options, one for Python 3, one for Python 2. Go ahead and download the graphical installer, and depending on what kind of Windows machine you have, you may need to download 32-bit instead of 64-bit. But if you're on a more or less modern machine, it's more likely that you have a 64-bit. So go ahead and download that installer. If you're on Mac OS, simply click Mac OS and then download that installer. And if you're on Linux, you're going to also have an installer that you can download. Keep in mind, once you've downloaded that file, if you scroll down, there's a link telling you how to install Anaconda. I would highly recommend you check out that link. It changes depending on what operating system you choose. Basically, if you click on that link, it'll take you to the documentation on how to install, and there's specific step-by-step instructions for installing on Windows, installing on Mac OS, and installing on Linux. So essentially, if you have any questions during the installation process, there's written instructions detailing step-by-step how to install Anaconda in Windows on your computer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download this file, and then keep in mind, locate wherever you actually have the graphical installer on your computer. Let's jump to me double-clicking on that graphical installer. Once you've installed that, or once you've downloaded that installer, it's time to actually install Anaconda. So I'm going to click open here, this executable file that downloaded for me. And then you'll have the Anaconda setup guide. You'll go ahead and click next, agree to the license agreement. I would recommend just installing it for just me. Then hit next, go ahead and select the default, hit next. Then eventually you'll have the advanced installation options. There's two advanced options here. You'll notice that one of them says add Anaconda to my path environment variable. If you've already installed Python previously, maybe you've already installed Python from python.org, then I actually highly recommend clicking and adding Anaconda to my path environment variable. I know it says here that it's not recommended, but if you have previous versions of Python, what ends up happening is when you download or install certain files, your computer gets confused as far as what Python version it should use, your previously installed Python or your Anaconda one. So if you've already installed Python in the past from python.org, then I highly recommend adding Anaconda to your path environment variable. If this is your first installation of Anaconda in Python ever, then it's actually not really necessary to do that. Okay, so once you're all done with that, go ahead and click install. All right, once you're done installing, we now need to download the libraries used for this course. The Anaconda installation has also installed the Anaconda prompt command line tool. We're going to be using the command line for the next few steps. Keep in mind, if you're on macOS or Linux, you can also use your terminal as the command line, or if you're on Windows, you should also be able to use your command prompt. All right, so for this next step, what we're going to do is we're going to both create and activate the virtual environment we provided for you. This virtual environment is essentially a simple text file of a bunch of libraries to download along with a specific version of the libraries. That way, you're going to be using the same libraries we used when creating this course, so you shouldn't have any issues with typos or small syntax changes. And this environment does this all for you automatically. check out the resource links for this particular lecture and download the .yml file. Upon clicking that resource link, you should see something that looks like this. It's essentially a Google Drive link with NLP_course_env.yml. It's a simple YML file. It's not going to preview. You simply just need to click here on this download button. Okay, so once you've downloaded that, you must keep track of the location of the .yml file. You're going to need to know its location in order to use it. Let's now go to the command line, search for Anaconda prompt on your computer, and then get started with creating and activating the environment. I'm going to jump over to my command line now. Okay, here I am, and I'm going to search for Anaconda prompt on my computer, and you should see the Anaconda prompt show up. Again, if you're on Mac OS or Linux and you don't find the Anaconda prompt through a Spotlight search, what you can do is also use Terminal. If you're on Windows and you still don't see Anaconda prompt, what you should also be able to type in is CMD and just use the normal command prompt. For our use case though, I'm going to use the Anaconda prompt. So let's click on that and open it. Okay, so I've opened up my Anaconda prompt, and right now I'm located under C, Users, and then my username. Keep in mind that I must know the location of my .yml file that I just downloaded from the link. So, right behind it here, we can see that underneath my downloads folder, I have the NLP_course_env.yml. So I need to change directory and make sure I'm in the same directory as wherever this .yml file. So you have two options. You can either change directory at the command line or simply move the .yml file to wherever you're located in the command prompt. So I can either move that folder to under user and my username, or I can cd using the words or letters cd and then type out the file path where that .yml file is. And you should be able to tab autocomplete. So I'm going to change directory or cd into downloads, and then if I'm on Windows, I can type dir, and I should be able to confirm that my YML file is there. If you are on Mac OS or Linux, the command for listing everything is simply ls for list. All right, now it's time to take that .yml file and then restore the environment from the .yml file. The command for doing this is simply conda env space create space ~f and then the name of the file, which is NLP_course_env.yml. Now, before I hit enter, I want to show you two really common errors. The first error is to accidentally have a typo. So for example, let's say I forgot one of these underscores and I tried running this. If you have a typo somewhere, you're going to get this error, can't process without a name. If you have that error, please triple check that you do not have a typo. If you've confirmed that you don't have a typo, then you may be in the wrong directory. So for example, if I actually go back up a directory, notice now I'm in the wrong directory. I'm no longer in downloads. So if I were to try to run the command conda env create-f, and even with the correct file name, if I hit enter, I'm going to get the same error. This is a really common error, and there's only two possibilities. Either you spelled the file name wrong, or you are in the incorrect location and you're not in the same location as that .yml file. Please triple check that in case you get this can't process without a name error. Again, it's an easy fix. You simply need to be in the correct directory. So we'll say cd to downloads. All right, now that we've confirmed we're in the same directory as the .yml file, simply type out the command conda space env space create space -f and then the name of the YML file. If you're in the correct directory, you should even be able to tab autocomplete this last part. If you're not able to tab autocomplete that, then it's a good indication that you're in the wrong directory. Okay, so I'm in the right directory. I haven't committed any typos, so I'm going to hit enter. And then you should see something pop up that it's solving the environment and getting the packages ready for you. So once you do that, it's going to eventually hit you with the list of packages to be installed. It's going to be a pretty long list, and then it's going to ask you for a yes or no, and you're just going to type out Y for yes. All right, after you've installed everything, you should see the actual commands to activate the environment. So you'll see something like to activate this environment, use this, and then to deactivate the environment, use that. So here are the commands: conda activate NLP course, conda deactivate. The commands may be slightly different depending on what operating system you're using. If you're on Mac OS or Linux, you may have to say source activate. anyways, the command will tell you what to type out. So anytime you want to run the environment, you're going to have to activate it. So we're simply going to say conda activate NLP_course, hit enter, and then you'll notice here on the left, now it's telling you you now are operating in the virtual environment. And again, you're going to have to activate this before typing out the following: Jupyter space notebook. And what this is going to do is it's going to start Jupyter Notebook in whatever directory you're at the command line. And then from here, you can work with our files that we've given you. So I'm going to hit enter. And once you hit enter, you should see a URL pop up with a token, and your browser should actually automatically open to the Jupyter Notebook page. So let's go ahead and go to that now. Okay, so here I am at Jupyter Notebook. You notice I have that .yml file because I ran this in the same folder under downloads, and then I see other downloads. So all you need to do is simply click New Notebook, and then you have a new notebook ready to go. So this is the environment we're going to be using. It's essentially just Python written in cells. So you can say something like print hello, do Shift Enter together, and then you get to see the actual output directly below. So what I would encourage you to do is download the zip file that contains all the course notebooks, and then simply unzip it to wherever you're going to be running Jupyter Notebook. In this case, I have it in the actual downloads folder. All right, if you have any questions, please search the Q&A forums in case someone's posted a similar question, and check out the FAQ lecture. If you still can't find an answer, post to the question and answer forums your new question with as much detail and screenshots as possible, and we'll be happy to get you up and running. Thanks, and I'll see you at the next lecture.